it was just a nice intro.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm grateful for the invite. Thank you.
Okay. Today we're going to start on Nunbav. That's 56. Page 56. We're starting
56A and Baba Basra. The Gemara is Baba Basra.
Starting 6 lines from the top. Excuse me. Okay, we thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. And in the schus of our learning, we should have the base of Mikdash immediately. We're learning the Nishmas of Golda Basbar Yamin and the son of Avram Ben Zion and the first name of Avram David Ben Sarah and Gedali Gatzel has been figured Spider. Okay. We're learning about acquiring land, making an acquisition on land. And what we said is specifically in a case where there's no seller, where it's an ownerless land. Why? Because there was a convert that didn't have any relatives that passed away. So that land would be ownerless. It doesn't go to any inheritance. There's no inheritors. So someone comes along and makes an acquisition of it. So what we said was, at least according to Rav and Shmuel, that if there was a border, if there's a border around the land, according to Rav, then if you dug one hole in the land, then that was considered an acquisition of the entire land. Shmuel said no. You only acquire, this is when there's no seller, you only acquire just the spot that you dug. Someone else can come and acquire the spot right next to it. What happens if there's no border at all? So then Rav Papa said, based on these opinions, that the amount of to acquire the whole field, you would have to plow the whole length and back, or the whole width and back of the field to acquire the whole field. Comes along our Gemara and says, Ein sham le'meitzav le'chatzav. Let's say there's no border, there's no chatzav is these trees that grow straight down, some sort of, maybe it's a bamboo, some sort, and it doesn't give us any name. Anyway, it's very good for a border because it doesn't take sustenance from this field or that field. We'll see today. Now, the Rashbam explains that we're following the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan that says that the Meitzah and the Chatzav would be dividing a field, that you would be able to acquire an entire field by making an acquisition in one field. That has a border of this Meitzah and Chatzav. That's what we learned yesterday. That this is following Rabbi Yochanan. That Rabasi says name Rabbi Yochanan that it divides it up. What is it divided up for? Okay. What happens if there's no border? So what's going to be the din? How would you acquire that field? So Pirish Rab Marinus Mishmai. Rab Marinus explains in his name. The Rashbam explains it's in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Kol shenekras al Shmai. That whatever the field is, whatever area is called on the name of one person or on the name of one field. So the Gemara explains, what does this mean? Hechidami Amar Rav Papa. How is this case? Rav Papa explains this. The karu le be gargusa de planya. Apparently, the way it would work is that there's a well, and that well would be able to water an entire area. So anything that was called by getting watered by that well, that would get acquired altogether. Made an acquisition in that in any part of that area, that would all be acquired.
It's not what they do for acres. Right?
Are you talking about the well that they when they have the four corners by the well? Saying that?
So when there's a well that between two.
There's by Erevin, there's two halachas of a well. One was when there's a well between two courtyards.
Yeah.
Then there's another when we're talking about the hanging wall. Then there was another halacha of a well, which was the hase birais, was where you had those corner pieces. Here, we're just talking about what's the title of the field. So I guess this person owns a well, and all the fields are called by his name because all those fields are watered by this well. talking about acquiring this area. How big of an area can you acquire if there's no borders? You only acquire the area that's called by that name because of that well that's there. They share a well. Probably shared streams of water, and it could be they shared a well, but if it's all called by this well, then it would all be this. Okay. Yosef Rav Acha bar Avia Kameder Rabasi. Rav Acha bar Avia is sitting in front of Rabasi. Yosef Akama is sitting and he says, Mishmeder Rabasi bar Chanina, in the name of Rabasi bar Chanina. Chatzuva mafsik b'nechse ager. If you have those plants that divide properties, so that would divide the property of a convert that passed away. And when it comes to acquiring that land. My chatzuva, what is this concept of chatzuva? What is this, these plants? Rav Yehuda says the name of Rav, Shabai Ticham Yeshua Yisrael Asaretz. What does the word Ticham mean? And Rav Moshe. I wish it was a samach, and then I would say it was tiachis, but it's not. It says ticham. I'm not familiar. How do they translate ticham? Yeah, it could be demarcated. But what's the root of that word? Established. Chaim, do you know the root of that word? Tichem. Okay, but what it means is that that Yeshua, when he gave when Joshua divided the land to the Jewish people, so he used this sort of plant to marker off whose land it was to divide the lands.
Maybe it's a choima, melashon choima.
Oh, very good. Very good. Very good. A wall. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful. Okay, it's turning a wall into a verb.
Is that Hebrew? That's Aramaic.
No, it's a Hebrew word.
Is wall?
It's a wall, yeah.
Here is also.
Here is also a wall. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so Rav Yehuda says name of Rav, Leimana Yeshua Ela Yarasaim Desal Gvulin. If you look through the book of Joshua, the book of Yeshua, so you have the interesting part, which is the stories, and then you have
Just
the boring...
as an afterthought, maybe it's melashon tchum.
Oh. That would also be a boundary, right? Maybe they're both the same root as well. Okay, Shekayach. So, the boring parts in the book of Yeshua, if you're allowed to say that, but those lists of all the cities, right? You remember that? There's like lists of cities. What is Yeshua listing over there? So it says he's listing the cities that are on the borders. He's not listing every single city because you don't have to do that. You just have to list the cities that are the border, and then you'll know whose territory is what. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Rav Yehuda said name of Shmuel Kolshar Hareu HaKadosh Baruch Hu Moshe Chayev b'Maiser. Before Moshe passed away, so Hashem took him up on the mountain and he was able to look over and see the land. Anything that he was able to see is going to be Chayev and Maiser. The rules of Maiser is that you have to give to the Levi. You have to give 1/10 of the grain, oil, and wine. Give 1/10 to the Levi. So
like
from
the second, fourth year, like it's not
right. But those rules are applicable only in the lands that Moshe Rabbeinu was able to see when he went up. The Gemara says, "Lafuke mai, what are you coming to exclude?" Australia. It says, "Lafuke keni knizi v'kadmaini." It's coming to exclude the lands of keni knizi and kadmaini, which are lands that were promised to Avram Avinu by the bris bein habasarim, by the pact, the parts, right? The covenant that Hashem made with Avram. He said He's going to give him the 10 lands, including Keni Knizi Kadmaini. When we came into the land of Israel, we only got 7 lands. So there are other lands that are surrounding there that are not included in this, and those are not included in the laws of Meiser. The Rashbam says something very shocking. Rashbam says that when Mashiach comes, when we get those lands, you see, Hashem never fulfilled the promise to Avraham Avinu. He never gave us all the lands that he promised Avraham Avinu. That's why V'hi Shamdal, when we talk about in the Haggadah, the V'hi Shamdal, that the promise of bris was it stands for us for all the generations because it was never fulfilled. Hashem has to still fulfill that promise to give us the larger area of Eretz Yisrael.
These lands were promised to Abraham, but Yoshua never conquered.
Right.
Right. They were still on.
Right. So it comes along this Gemara, and the Rashbam explains that even when Mashiach comes, these lands are going to be exempt from Meiser.
Didn't David
So,
HaMelech conquer everything except?
No, what happened was David HaMelech made it's called Kibush Yachid. He conquered surrounding areas, but because Eretz Yisrael proper was not fully conquered, so it was considered Kibush Yachid. It wasn't considered that it was conquered by the congregation.
So
So it
not
had
once
separate.
have we conquered.
Yeah, we never had it. So the commentaries ask on this Rashbam, says what's going on. I have on the side of the Gemara, they're asking these things. It says it doesn't make sense because even if you would conquer lands in Chutz La'aretz, you would be chayav in Meiser.
Those lands, what's the arts?
Yeah. So if when Mashiach comes, we're going to conquer lands that are part of Israel, officially part of Israel. Keni, Knisi, Kanmaini. We're not going to be chayav in Meiser. Anyway, this little commentary that I have on the side, that's just added in my Gemara. It's probably not in all the Gemaras. He says that's only before we conquer all the 7 lands. But after we conquer all the 7 lands, then it's going to be extended to the land of Israel, and it will be chayav in Meiser. That's the way we understood it, right?
Certain kinds of Meiser were applicable to. Like, what I'm saying is, it's not black or white. There's some Meiser, some territories were higher.
Yeah, there are some that are like Syria, that have laws, rabbinic laws of Meiser because they're close to Israel.
Do we know where the 3 lands are?
I'm not sure. That's something that the Koran would tell us. Does it tell us where the lands are? It doesn't have a map on it. Tanya, Reb Meir says Naftucha, Arva, V'Shalma. Yeah, Reb Meir says, I'll tell you what they are. It's the lands of Naftucha, Arva, V'Shalma, right? And that's the Keni, Knizi, and Kadmaini. And Reb Yehuda Aimer, Har Seir, Amin, and Mayav. That it's Har Seir, the Mount Seir, lands of Ammon and Mayav. Reb Shimon Aimer. Ardiskia, Asya, and Aspamia. These other lands. Asya is what's Asya? Asia. Is that Asia Minor? Does that mean Turkey? And Aspamia can't mean Spain, right? What is Aspamia? It's another city somewhere over there. Huh?
It's a
Yeah. Taisva says Asya. The problem is that we have another Asya that was in Eretz Yisrael. Oh, it's a city in northern Syria. Okay. We have a new Mishnah, new topic. Ready? Let's say we're talking about creating a chazaka. Chazaka is that a person's in a property for 3 years and he doesn't have any document that's attesting to the sale. So we say that he doesn't have to hold the document more than 3 years. Witnesses come and say you were there for 3 years. You have a claim that you bought it. That's good enough. So here we have 2 witnesses that come that say that he was there for 3 years, and so therefore, in this conflict between Reuven and Shimon, Reuven says I'm the original owner. It's my property. Shimon says I've been here 3 years. I don't have the document. I'm sorry. It's been a long time, and Shimon's going to win because those witnesses are testifying for him that he was there in the land for 3 years. He doesn't have to hold on to the document. Well, those witnesses that came in were supporting Shimon said, how did you testify that Shimon was in the property for 3 years? You weren't even here. You were with us in another place. You were not able to testify about that. So they just made the property to be owned by Shimon. They have to pay for what they wanted to do. They wanted Shimon to own the property, and they have to pay that property to Reuben one time. Yeah. So Reuben gets the property, plus the witnesses have to pay the value of that property.
Is that a false witness then?
It turns out that they're false witnesses because we trust the second group of witnesses that say that you were with us. We trust it. Yeah, so the Edom Zaymim have to pay. Now there's a big discussion over here when it says Mishaman Le'asakal, do they have to pay for the fruits that he ate while he was there? The 3 years. What do you think? Should he have to pay for the fruits that he ate while he was there? Sort of a trick question. Why is it a trick question? Because if he was there for 3 years, then he has a chazaka. If you're making him pay for you're telling him that he wasn't there.
We found out that
The Edom Zaymim say he wasn't there, so why should he have to pay for that? Why should
they should then.
no?
Because
So
he
one
wasn't
second.
there. He usually has no hazard.
If he doesn't have a chazaka, so they wanted him to be able to keep the field, plus not have to pay for those fruits that he ate while he was there for 3 years. That's what they wanted. Okay, so now we say they're liars. So therefore, they have to pay for the field, and do they have to pay for the fruits that he ate while he was there for 3 years? If you say yes, then you're basically saying that he was there for 3 years.
What if he was only there for one?
So OSHA tells us, says that, so at least he should have to pay for 1 year. Maybe what they're knocking out is that he was just not there for a full 3 years. Maybe he was there for 1 or 2 years. You should have to pay for that. But you for sure can't say that he has to pay for 3 years total, because then you're basically admitting. Sorry? Yeah, what we had before was that if we find out that the person doesn't have a chazak in that property and really doesn't belong to him, he's going to have to pay for everything that he had, everything that he consumed, because it wasn't his property and he was there. But here we're saying that he wasn't in the field. So
What if he lies and he ends up making a chazaka on 2 years? But he was only there for 2 years, and we only find
Right.
out a year later.
Right. So then that could come out that he should have to pay for 2 years. That's a possibility. Okay. This is a big discussion in the commentaries. Let's say you have 2 witnesses that testify he was there for the first year. Another witness that says he was there for another 2 witnesses that was there for the second year. Another 2 witnesses that were there for the 3rd year. So if they become Zaymamin, they're going to have to divide up the payment between the 3 of them. That's acceptable, by the way. As we're saying, that you can have a witness testifying to 1 year at a time, one group of witnesses. We'll see why that's not considered half a testimony. That the Gemara is going to discuss that shortly. Shloisha Achim. Let's say there's 3 brothers. Ve'echad mitzdaref imayim. 3 brothers, each one is going to testify to 1 year to create the chazaka. And that's not a good, you can't have 1 witness. So you have, together with these 3 brothers, you're going to have 1 individual that was there for all 3 years. He's going to be the second witness that's going to join with the 3 brothers. Yeah. 3 brothers, Gershon, Kasim, Merari. All right. The Gershon, Kasim, Merari, those are let's say 3 brothers. And then we have some other fellow, we have Kairach. He joins together with Gershon, he joins together with Kas, he joins together with Merari, and that's going to be a good testimony. Okay. Now,
Are they brothers with the one that took over the land?
no, the 3 brothers, they're just witnesses. Yeah. So Harei Shalosh Eidus. This is acceptable because each one is independent. You can't have brothers testifying together, but they're not testifying together. Each one's testifying independently. and this other person is not related to them, so that's fine. So Kerach wouldn't be good. It was a relative. However, the rule when it comes to Eidim Zaymin is that when you want to make Eidim Zaymin, you have to say that all of you, you have to say that all of you were not here. You can't just get part of them.
They're living all in West Miami Beach. Voting.
Yeah, but they're voting stuff. Maybe they did the what's it called when you vote from out of town? What's it called?
Oh, absentee.
Absentee, yeah.
Ah.
There was a guy that got in Crown Heights. There was something, there's the two communities in Crown Heights. There's the Jewish community and then the not Jewish community. Anyway, this wasn't by the riots. This was afterwards. There was something where someone got beaten up or something. Anyway, they asked the victim. They said, who was it? So he picked one of the Jewish guys that had a red beard or something. They picked him and they said, okay, it was him. He was the guy that did it. So he had to prove that it wasn't him. So he happened to have a movie. He had a ticket that said that he was at the movies that night. That was able to prove that he wasn't there. It wasn't him. Right? And so his way out. This is not a sign that you should go to the movies. This is
But if you go,
okay. Maslisid like Rabbi Akiva. It says our Mishnah doesn't fit with Rabbi Akiva, the Tanya, because we have a brisa that goes like this. Amar Rabbi Yasi. Rabbi Yasi says, Rabbi Yasi is a student of Rabbi Akiva. He's one of the five students that all the other students passed away. 24,000. Rabbi Yasi is one of the five that are left. Rabbi Yasi was the one that was exiled to Tzipori. Remember in the conversation with Reb Shimon Bar Yochai and Rabbi Yehuda, spoke good about the Romans. Rabbi Yasi was quiet. Shimon spoke good. Rabbi Shimon spoke bad about. Rabbi Yehuda spoke good about the Romans. And Rabbi Yasi was quiet. He was exiled. His son is Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yasi. His father is Chalafta. It's called Rabbi Yasi ben Chalafta. He's the author of the Jewish history book, Seder Olam, which is the book that gives us all our dates and everything.
There's a note here about
Yeah. So anyway, it says Rabbi Yasi says, when my father Chalafta went to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri to study Torah, some say that it was the other way. Some say that Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri went to study by Abba Chalafta, by Rabbi Yasi's father Chalafta. He said to him, let's say someone gets a chazaka by having 2 witnesses for the first year, 2 witnesses, 2 other witnesses for the second year, 2 other witnesses for the third year. Is that considered a chazaka? It's considered that he's assumed owner of that property, even without the document. Amalai. So he says, "There is a chazaka. It is. It's a chazaka." Amalai. He says to him, he tells him back, "I also say so." But Rabbi Akiva argues on this. Rabbi Akiva says, "Davar v'lechatzi davar." You have to testify about the whole matter. You can't testify about half the matter. Because we need to have witnesses that are testifying about that he has a chazaka, not witnesses that are testifying that he has a third of a chazaka. We heard 6 witnesses. Pasuk says that you have 2 witnesses for the whole thing. You can have 6 witnesses, but they have whatever it is, they need to be testifying about the whole thing. The problem is not that it's 6. The problem is that it's not the whole thing, right? And Rabbi Akiva says that you need to testify about the whole thing.
Why isn't it the whole thing? I thought they were testifying as to the 3 years.
That each group of each pair of witnesses is only testifying to 1 year, which doesn't make a chazaka. You have to combine all of those testimonies together to get the chazaka.
Right.
And according to Rabbi Akiva, he says that the pasuk says, "Al pishnayim edim yakum davar," that you have 2 witnesses testifying to the matter, It means it needs to be the whole matter and not half the matter. I'm on 56b. What did the rabbis say about davar v'lechatzi davar? Why did the rabbis say that it is a good testimony when you have three groups of witnesses, and Rabbi Kiva says it's not? Rabbi Kiva has a verse that implies that it's not acceptable. What do the Rabbanan do with that verse? This is talking about if a girl has reached maturity, she would have to have 2 pubic hairs. That's how the signs of maturity. So let's say there's one witness that says that they saw a hair on the front of her body, and one witness that says they saw a hair on the back of her body. So that would be in that area. In that area. So the Gemara says, so that wouldn't be acceptable because each one is testifying about half a matter. Gemara says that's not half a matter. That's Hi chatzi davar, v'chatzi edasi. Maybe what I'm supposed to say. Hi chatzi davar. No, chatzi edasi. Take away the vav. That's not a half a matter. That's half a testimony, because each one is not testifying. Each one, I only have one witness per here, and that's not. I don't have 2 witnesses. So, if you put them both together, then each one is only testifying about a different about one here. About a different.
2 on the same. But it's usually is always 2. Like for the animals, like everything is always 2.
Normally same.
What?
2 signs. For the fish, there's the scales and the fins for the hooves, and choose the card. There's always 2. All the same thing.
Yeah, but for puberty, you only need 2 hairs. And here they only have, each one is testifying 1 hair. So we thought that maybe they're only testifying about half a matter. We're saying no, we don't. It's not half a matter. It's a half of 2 witnesses. The problem is the witnesses. So in other words, the Gemara is rejecting this from saying that maybe what the rabbis say davar v'lechatzi davar is coming to exclude a case like that. But it can't be excluding that case, because that case is not, you don't even have 2 witnesses about the same hair. You only have 1 witness. So we have to adjust this. So the Gemara adjusts it to the following. Rather, you have 2 witnesses testifying that she has 1 hair on the front, and you have 2 witnesses testifying that she has 1 hair on the back. You just added a witness to each hair. So now this would be half a matter. Half a matter, the rabbis would say that's not acceptable. Now, what we're getting into now is a problem, because the rabbis said that if you testify about 1 year, 2 witnesses testify about 1 year, and that's 3 groups of witnesses, each one testifying to 1 year, that is acceptable. It was only Rabbi Akiva that says it's not. So we said, what did the rabbis do with the verse that Rabbi Akiva quoted? They also use it. And they use it to tell me that you can't have 2 witnesses testifying to 1 year. So how can you have 2 witnesses testifying to 1 year? So we have to somehow come up with the difference between a year and a hair. A year in a chazaka has to be different than a hair. So the Rashbam here, H-E-R-E, in this big Rashbam Ella, it's not so big, but he says, his basic explanation is like this: since when you have witnesses, they're supposed to be witnessing the whole scene, and so if they're testifying about that she has that she's mature, there's probably some crime that was committed, and we need to find out if she's mature or whatever. But if they're testifying that she is mature, so then they have to be testifying that she's mature, which means they have to see two pubic hairs, and they didn't do that. They only saw 1. They should have checked for another one. They didn't. Okay, when it comes to the 3 years of a chazaka, you can't speed up time. You have to wait there for another year and another year They happened to be, they were only in that place for 1 year. They lived there for a year. What do you want me to do? You want me to live there for longer? I got a different job somewhere else. I moved away. But I can still come back and testify that this person was my neighbor for 1 year while I was there. So that's not considered half a testimony, because it's not considered half a matter. It's not considered half a matter because they testified about everything that they were able to know at that time. But by the pubic years, they were testifying only about half of what they were able to know. It has to do with what they were able to know.
If you had two witnesses and they witnessed one hair and two witnesses that witnessed the second, then
So even the rabbis would say that that's not acceptable. That's now becoming our problem, because so why do they say that if the two witnesses witnessed 1 year, that he lived there for a year, and he lived another two witnesses that he lived there, another two witnesses, we say that it's acceptable. So we have to differentiate between those. So we have to, what's the contrast? What's the
Why can't they say that the same way they should have looked for the second hair? Stay there another year.
because in time, we're dividing it up by time. While you're there, both hairs were there at the same time. If actually, that's an interesting point, that if one hair was there and then it fell out and then the other hair grew, she would be a katana, she'd be a minor. She's not an adult. So they have to be there at the same time. And they only witnessed one of them.
But
Yeah.
both sets lived in North Miami Beach with us for the whole time. So they're all lying witnesses. So does it matter that they're not acceptable because of the time problems?
So 1 second. Before you get to the lying part, let's first get it that it's a testimony. The
Right.
first has to be so
Acceptable testimony.
then it could be turned into are they liars or not? So-
cameras back then work, because there was a photo on the front, one on the back at the same point in time. The Olympics.
So yeah, you follow? Yeah, some of the commentaries there's a lot of discussion in this because whenever you have it's very nuanced, very slight. Some of the commentators say no. When these witnesses testify that she has one hair, they're actually testifying that she's a minor. One hair means a minor, not an adult. But when two witnesses are testifying that he lived there for a year, it's not saying that he's not the owner. It's saying that it's saying that he showed ownership. It's just not enough. Because somehow they're able to divide it up, that one here is not showing maturity. One here is showing that she's a minor. It's not half of maturity, one here. One here is showing that she's a minor. But 1 year is showing a third of ownership.
1 year's nothing.
1 year, yeah, but it's
Itself.
still
Is
showing.
Is there an issue with personal liability? Doesn't one imply something that could be judged upon the witness itself, or as opposed to the other one is a more innocuous, like third-party witness?
Yeah, which case are you referring to? The hairs or the girl that's
The hairs. So you're basically you're testifying as to something that could be imputed negatively upon yourself, potentially. Whereas the other one, you're a third party witness and you're just testifying what anyone could have seen in the same position.
Yeah, no, I think the witnesses by the hairs are also not. There's nothing to do with them. They're just testifying that we were there. We were in the bathhouse or whatever. She happened to be going, and they testify. It's not so modest, but they happened to see her here, and she's mature. We saw her. Yeah, I think the question was that the witnesses may have been involved in in whatever crime there was.
Not necessarily involved. It just potentially imputes something upon the witnesses that involves personal, I don't use the word liability, but someone could extrapolate from that as opposed to just saying I live next door and I saw them.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Now the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda, we're going back a few generations to Rabbi Yehuda, student of Rav. He says, if one witness, one witness says that he ate, he was there 3 years and he ate wheat. He was growing. We're talking about a field. They're saying when he ate means that that's what he was growing. He was growing wheat there. Another one says he was growing barley. He said, raise a chazaka. That's considered a chazaka. Now, the way that this is being understood here is that it would be following the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha that had an interesting opinion. He said that if someone borrows money, and Reuben borrows money from Shimon, and two witnesses come and say that testified to that loan that it took place on Monday. One witness says that it took place on Monday. Another witness comes and says that it took place on Tuesday. So we combine it together. Rabbi Shimon Karcha holds that we can combine it together. Now, he says, look, I have two witnesses testifying that he owes $100. I know the details are not accurate, but fact is, when everything boils down, he owes him $100 according to two witnesses. So on the fact that he has to pay that $100, that they're both testifying.
Why doesn't it apply to the two parents?
Factors into one case.
I don't know. Bush is asking, so why doesn't that apply to the 2 years?
One piece in the front and one on the side. And if it's all the same here. The person with the loan, there's no question that the guy wants to loan. It's just.
Yeah, maybe, but I'm not sure. I have to analyze this. Okay.
We're talking about wheat and barley. So what
Wheat
does
and
it have
barley.
to do with the hymns?
No, because I was saying that how does this become a chazaka? Because they're both saying that the fact is he lived there. Both saying that he lived there and that he acted as an owner. That's what they're saying. So we ignore the details and we take the. So in whose opinion is this that you can ignore the details and take the bottom line? This is the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha.
I mean, the Gemara emphasized the fact that most people won't recognize the
very good.
difference between
Very good.
wheat and barley.
Yeah, that's the
I
end
mean,
of this
when you
Gemara.
see it, it looks the same.
Yeah.
And that's why the
But
testimony.
this you just mentioned, cultivate, could be a sharecropper.
One of the two things,
That he's living.
No, he's claiming that he bought it.
yeah.
He's claiming that he bought it. He was never a sharecropper. There's nothing to do with this field, other than the fact that he bought it. Maskefla Rab Nachman. Rab Nachman has a question. Rab Nachman's question to this is Rab Yehuda is based on the fact that he thinks that when one person says that he ate barley, one person says he ate wheat, that it must have been different years. So he says, according to you, if each one, we have one witness testifying that he ate 1, 3, and 5, he was living in the property. And you have another witness that says that he was in the property for 2, 4, and 6, year 2, 4, and 6. You want to say that that's going to be a chazaka? The problem is if you don't have consecutive years that you're in the property, so it's not considered a chazaka. So he's assuming that when Rabbi Yehuda said that each one, that one witness is testifying that he ate wheat, one was testifying that he ate barley, that they're testifying to different years, and you don't have it consecutive. Yeah. Anyway, there's an interesting Rashbam over here that says that Sha'alti la'oivdei ha'adama. If you see that, you want to see that. Rashbam says, I asked farmers. It's the bottom line of the narrow of the. It's not the narrow lines, but it's before it gets wide. It says that you can alternate crops between wheat and barley, and you never have to leave it fallow to regenerate rejuvenate the. Yeah, does that make sense?
I think the Americans.
The peanuts, right? Yeah.
Cotton would go into the lagoon.
Right.
Is there an issue with lion?
No. Well, grapes in the vineyard, but they weren't growing it together. They were growing one after another.
Uh-huh.
So he wants to. That's going to be a chazaka. And basically, he's assuming that they were alternating crops. Amalei Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda says, no. Hasam b'shata the kamasid mar. There, when at the year that this one is testifying like kamasid mar, that one's not testifying. This one's the even numbers. That one's testifying about the odd numbers. Over here, they're both testifying about the same year. What claim can you have? All I'm saying is that between wheat and barley, people can't tell the difference. So the fact that this one said wheat and this one said barley, they're testifying about the same time. It's hard to tell the difference. We said that if there's three brothers and then there's another person that's together with them, so that's considered three separate witnesses, three separate testimonies. But it's one testimony when it comes to Azama. That means if you want to prove them false, you have to prove all of them false. Okay. Ahushtara. We're on top of Nazayin. Should we leave it here, Dr. Stein, and you want to take over from the top of Nazayin? Did you prepare the top? Yeah? Okay, so let's leave it over here. Let's leave it over here, exactly on the top. I'll be away for until Monday. I'll be back at Bez Hashem Monday. I'll be back on Sunday, but I'll teach Monday. I'll teach Monday, Bez Hashem. Okay.
How long's your flight?
17 hours, I think. How long is the flight?
Well, if I don't know, he'll.
17 hours.
Where are you stopping?
In